As we all know, the coding agents need to search the web, let it be for getting the latest docs or the new API changes, or even if we are working on GitHub, it needs to fetch the GitHub issues. But the thing is, we don't understand how this search works underneath. We want to know what the search is using, and if possible, we want to control that layer. So this is where searchng comes into picture. And in this video, we will talk about what is searchng, how you can enable it for coding agents, and why privacy and open source search actually is important. So let's dive straight into it. Let's start with the basics. First, let's understand what is searchng. So searchng is a free and open source meta search engine where the search is not being tracked. What I mean by meta search engine is search engine doesn't have its own search index. Instead, when you ask search engine a question, it searches through multiple search engine and search services. As you can see on the docs page, it can search up to 251 search services. Post this search, what happens is search engine collects all the results and give you result in one single page. You can basically think of it like a search router, and users are not being tracked or profiled, so that's where the privacy angle comes into picture. But for coding agent, the part that is useful is the search engine can be the agent's search backend. It has an http api, so instead of your agent depending on a search integration that you don't know anything about, you can run search ng yourself and point your coding agent to it. So it's not just about searching privately, but it's about having a search backend for a coding agent. As you see in the docs, there are two ways for you to get started with Search Engine. The first is you can use a public instance, or you can host your own instance locally. So all the public instances are listed on this page called search.space. You can see there are currently 68 instances that are online. You can use the public instance if you want, but I would recommend you guys, if you want to pair it up with a coding agent, you should run this search ng locally on your machine. Because with all these public instances, it's the admin of that particular instance that is controlling the server, the logs, and configuration and everything. So you don't actually have the control in your hands. Let's take a look at the different ways in which you can do the installation yourself. As you can see here, there are three ways for the installation. The first is the Docker container, then there's a script, and then there's a step-by-step installation. And in my case, since we don't want any special preferences, we will simply go ahead with the Docker container setup. Before doing the setup, let us first understand how searchng works with the coding agent, so the setup will make a lot more sense to you. So as you can see in this diagram, we have the coding agent on the leftmost side, and this could be Codex, Cloud Code, Cursor, or anything, and the whole setup is going to remain the same. So we have the search ng as you see as the middle layer, and we will be running it as a Docker container locally, and this will expose the port 8080. So it will be exposing as HTTP API. And there in between, we have a MCP server for the search engine. And this is the server that will allow us to interact with the local search engine instance that we have. If you're new to MCP, I've already created a video explaining all these fundamentals. You can check it out. I'll link it in the description. So in the coding agent, we have added a MCP server, and the setup for MCP server will be quite similar for all the coding agents. And then we have the middle layer, which is the search ng instance that we are running locally. And this is the layer that we can control. And what search ng will do, it will actually route the queries that we do to external search engines, to multiple search servers that we talked about. And once it gets the result, it will pass it to the MCP server, and the MCP server will return the JSON results in a structured manner back to the coding agent. So the MCP server is the actual bridge between the coding agent and the search engine instance that is running locally. And whatever you see in this instance, it is happening private and local to your machine. And these external search engines like Brave, Google, DuckDuckGo, all of them still exist, but the coding agent is going to talk to the search engine instance first. I hope it makes sense how this works under the hood, and this will actually help us in making the setup super easy because now you understand the fundamentals. One more thing is we need to configure the search engines in the search engine, and I'll show you the configuration in some time. And whenever we are doing a query, the search engine is going to look at its own settings. It will look which search engines are enabled, what is the output format, what is the time range, and other sort of things. And I'll show you all of that in some time. In case you might be wondering, like we have these external search engines in place, so how the search is private? So that's where the magic of search engine comes into picture. What it does, it removes any private information from the request before passing it to the external search engine, and it doesn't send your cookies, and it creates like a random profile for fulfilling these requests. So your profile is not at all tracked, or you don't need a profile at all. For humans, it makes sense to get the output in the format of HTML, but for agents, the output that we get should be JSON, and I'll talk about it in the setup that we're going to do now. In this video, I'll be showing you through Codex, but this remains the same irrespective of any coding agent that you're using. Having understood how a local instance of search-ng works, let us start with the setup. So we will do the most important thing first, which is to run up our own instance of search-ng locally. And for that, we will need Docker as a prerequisite. So let's get started. As you can see, we are on the official docs for search-ng, and I will be following this setup that you see for Docker Compose. So let's do it together. I'm in my terminal, and first we will start with creating the environment. So I'll copy the command. We will go inside this search ng directory. Now we will fetch the latest compose template using this curl command. Then we will copy the environment file, and we can open this environment file that you see. So as you can see here, the port is 8080 and the version is latest. And feel free to edit the values if you want. I'll keep it as it is in my case. And then next we will start the services. So we will use Docker Compose up -d. So in my case, something was already running on the port, so it failed. I will bring it up again. So as you can see here, the network got created and the two containers got created, and we can see it in the Docker desktop. So here you can see the search ng that is running. It was started like 53 seconds ago, and inside that there are two containers. One is core and the other is Valky. This is exactly as per the setup that we have done. Do you recall I was talking about some settings that you can change? So you can find the settings under the core config folder. There's this settings.yaml file. I'll open this for you. There are different options and preferences. You can set it up as ever you want. There are section for search. You can have safe search. You can do autocomplete. And yeah, you can set the language that you want and lots of other settings that are there. As we saw, the container for search ng was already running and it was mapped at port 8080. So we are going to test it with the help of a curl call. We are calling it at localhost 8080, and this is the search endpoint that we are calling. We are searching for search ng and in JSON format. So let's run this query. If you see, we get this error called forbidden 403. It says that I don't have permission to access the requested resource. So let's see how we can fix it. After getting the error, you can just ask your LLM to resolve it. We just wanted to show you guys how you can navigate through the docs. So if you search for the forbidden, you can see that we get under search API, and this was the API that we are calling. And the reason was, if we want to consume the results as JSON, CSV, or RSS format, we need to set the format parameter accordingly. And these formats are defined in the settings.yaml file that we have already seen under the search section. And if we have not set the format and we are still querying for it, we will get the error. So the error 403 was expected in our case. As we saw earlier, the settings.yaml file was very long. To be able to edit this easily, I've opened it in an ID, and we will go to the core config folder. We see this settings.yaml file, and we will search for the search section, and here it is. So here we should see a formats key. And currently, if you see under formats, we just have the HTML format, which is good for humans, but not good for agents. So we will add JSON in here, and then we will save this file. And now let's try to again run the curl command. If we run the curl command again, we again get the forbidden error. So what we will do is we will simply restart it so that the changes are being picked up. So first we will bring down the network, and then we will bring it up again. As you can see, the containers have been created again. And now if I try to run the curl command, I got the response. So it's working fine. So now you can see we are getting the response. So now it is confirmed that the local instance of search-ng is working fine. So as you know by now, the coding agent is not going to talk to the search-ng instance directly. It will talk to the MCP server, because that is the gateway for these agents to the external world. And this is the MCP server that we are going to use. And I'll share the link in the description of the video so that you can use it. It's very simple. You just give this GitHub URL and tell your agent to add this as a MCP server, and it will do it for you. And once you have added this, you should be able to see it under the MCP servers. And yeah, you can give the environment variables as the localhost 8080. Now let's test it out. As we have done the whole setup, it's time to test it through Codex. So we will say use the search ng MCP server to search for latest Docker API versions. As you can see here, the search ng is being used for the web search. And this time it's not some setup that you don't understand, but this is being routed through the search MCP server that we have. And in turn, it's calling the local search ng instance that is running on Docker. So that's the whole setup that is being used now. And yeah, it gave us results. So it gave us the latest Docker versions that are there. Now let's talk about a few things that you should keep in mind when using search ng. So the search quality is dependent on the search engine that we are using. As we know, search ng is the meta search engine, and it uses multiple external search engines underneath. So it actually depends on which search engine is being used. The second thing is, for coding agents, do not rely on public instances. Make sure you spin up your local instance the way we have done in this video, and then use it for a coding agent so that the privacy and control is in your hands. And lastly, do not paste any secret in the search query, even though it is private, running on a device, it's self hosted. Make sure not to enter any sensitive and secret information in the search query. Sharing a pro tip, so instead of querying and saying that use the search ng MCP server, you can ask your coding agent to add it in the custom instructions that you have. So every time you do a query, it will be routed automatically through the search ng that we have set up. With this, we come to an end of the video. I hope it was useful. Do try it out. Give your coding agent a search backend that you can run yourself, control, and customize it. And let the control and power be in your hands so that none of your searches are being tracked. Thanks a lot. I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.